Good morning, y'all. This is going to be like just a random video because it's something that I'm reading in Leviticus, which is Leviticus 20 verses 1 through 8, where it's talking about Molech worship and spiritism. Now, the first time I heard about Molech was on TikTok, actually. It was on TikTok, and somebody mentioned how abortion is related to giving your child up to Molech. It's a blood covenant because there is blood involved when you have an abortion. So I just want to read what it says in the Bible, and then I have some points that I want to make in the Bible dictionary. And then I'm on my iPad, I have the Bible app. Y'all, the Bible app is great. You can type in something and it'll pull up all the verses related to that. So I did type in Molech, and I do want to read some of what it says in other verses in the Bible. So Leviticus 20:2 through 8, the Lord spoke to Moses, say to the Israelites, any Israelite or alien residing in Israel, so those would be like foreigners who are now resident aliens, they live there now, who gives any of his children to Molech must be put to death. The people of the country are to stone him. I will turn against that man and cut him off from his people, because he gave his offspring to Molech, defiling my sanctuary and profaning my holy name. But if the people of the country look the other way, then what man gives any of his children to Molech, or when that man gives any of his children to Molech and do not put him to death, then I will turn against that man and his family and cut off from their people both him and all who follow him in prostituting themselves with Molech. Whoever turns to mediums or spiritists and prostitutes himself with them, I will turn against that person and cut him off from his people. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. Keep my statutes and do them. I am the Lord who sets you apart. Y'all, just reading that and then my Bible dictionary, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, moving that aside, I want to read the definition. It's kind of long, but here's the thing. From what I've learned of Molech, there is no definitive to how people sacrificed their children to him. There's no definitive of what his name actually means or who he actually was. So it says Molech, which in Hebrew, it's the same pronunciation. It's just spelled differently. Instead of M-O-L-E-C-H, in Hebrew, it's M-O-L-E-K. Transliteration of Hebrew word related to word for king, but describing a foreign god or practice related to foreign worship. Now, I did look this up in my concordance. Let me get my sticky note. And it says, in Hebrew, it's M-O-L-E-K, also means king, chief deity of the Ammonites. Yes. And let me continue. In the dictionary, the meaning of Molech is debated. So this is what I was talking about. Like, there's no definitive of what this means because the Bible didn't really go too deep into who Molech was. It was just that God was like, do not sacrifice your children to him. Two views generally are proposed. One suggestion is that Molech denotes a particular type of offering, a votive sacrifice made to confirm or fulfill a vow. This viewpoint is supported by the fact that some Carthaginian, Phoenician, Punic inscriptions from the period 400 to 150 BC imply that the word Malak, M-A-L-A-K, is a general form for sacrifice or offering. Such a meaning is possible in some passages, Leviticus 18 and 21, which says, you are not to sacrifice any of your children in the fire to Molech. That's all it says for that. And then it says, verse 20, chapter 20, verse 3 through 5. I read that. 2 Kings 23:10 which says, he defiled Topheth, which is in Ben Hanam Valley, so that no one could sacrifice his son or daughter in the fire to Molech. And then Jeremiah 32 and 35. They have built the high places of Baal and Ben Hanam Valley to sacrifice their sons and daughters in the fire to Molech. A second suggestion is that Molech is the name of the pagan deity to whom human sacrifices were made. This deity often is associated with Ammon, 1 Kings 11 and 7, the abomination of the children of Ammon. Leviticus 25 condemns those who commit whoredom with Molech, and then it gives the verses I just read. Some ancient archaeological evidence points to child sacrifice in ancient Ammon. Many scholars contend that all the biblical texts referring to Molech can be understood by interpreting it as a divine name. So basically like another god. Idolatry. You know, the Israelites, they just worship everything. Anything and everything that God told them not to. They just did it anyway. The etymology of the term Molech is interesting. Scholars suggest that it is a deliberate misvocalization of the Hebrew word for king, or for the related participle Molech, which is ruler. They propose that the consonants for the Hebrew word for king, MLK, were combined with the vowels from the word for shame, which is boshet or boshet, B-O-S-H-E-T. Thus, this title was a divine epithet expressing contempt for the pagan god. In times of apostasy, some Israelites, apparently in desperation, made their children go through the fire to Molech, which is Leviticus 18:21, chapter 20, verses 2 through 5, 2 Kings 23:10, 2 Kings 17:31. I don't think I read one of those. I think I missed one of those. I don't think I did. I don't know. Jeremiah 7:31, chapter 19, verse 5, and 32:35. It generally is assumed that references like these are to the sacrifices of children in the valley of Hinnom at a site known as Topheth, which probably means fire pit in Syriac. Precisely how this was done is unknown. Some contend that the children were thrown into a raging fire. Certain rabbinic, I don't know how to pronounce that word, writers describe a hollow bronze statue in the form of a human, but with the head of an ox. According to the rabbis, children were placed in a structure that was then heated from below. Drums were pounded to drown out the cries of children. First of all, that is horrific. That is horrific. They didn't want to hear the cries of children because they know how it would make them. Like, y'all, I can't even fathom that. These are children. An alternate view contends that the expression passed through Molech refers not to human sacrifices, but that parents gave up their children to grow up as temple prostitutes. So that's like in today's time, what that looks like is people who sell their children for drugs, people who sell their children into prostitution, people who sell their children into human trafficking. People are still doing this today. This is not something that was just one and done. That this is where that comes from. How people give up their children for whatever reason to whore after something else. It's still done today. Like, it is. Even with abortion, that's a blood covenant. You're giving up that child to Molech because you don't want the child, because, oh, it was a mistake. You got pregnant by this person. And even, in cases of incest and rape, it's still the same thing, but that's for different reasons. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. Such a view appeals to Leviticus 18, where throughout the chapter, the writer is concerned with sexual intercourse. Another view sees an original fire ceremony dedicating, but not harming children that later was transformed into a burnt offering ceremony. The practice of offering children as human sacrifice was condemned in ancient Israel, but the implication is clear in the Old Testament that child sacrifice was practiced by some in Israel. 2 Kings 21:6, 23:10, 2 Chronicles 28:3, Psalms 106:38, Jeremiah 7:31, 19:4-5, Ezekiel 16:21, 23:27-39. The exile seems to have put an end to this type of worship in Israel. However, it lingered on in North Africa and among the Carthaginian Phoenicians into the Christian era. So it still goes on today. It just looks different. A lot of things that happen in the Bible, people think that, oh, those traditions are done away with. Oh, those ceremonies are done away with. No. A lot of that stuff is not done away with. It just looks different today because times have changed. People have changed. So there are different ways that people do these very same things that God told them not to do. Just in today's time, it looks different. Now, I do want to read some of the other verses. So this is Ezekiel 24:8. In order to stir up wrath and take vengeance, I have put her blood on the bare rock so that it would not be covered. That's the only thing I don't like, is they don't give you the full verse when you look it up. Let me see, which ones have I not read? 1 Kings 11:7. At that time, Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abhorrent idol of Moab, and for Milcom, the abhorrent idol of the Ammonites, on the hill across from Jerusalem. So I wonder if Milcom was also another name for Molech. Oh, yeah, it is. So it has like a little speech bubble next to it. If you click on it, it tells you that there's another name for it. So that was it. Milcom was another name for Molech. Let's look up Milcom and see if that gives